In the last section, we saw that every single time that we ran our test suite, we would add a new record to our collection of users. And I asked, do you think this would be an issue? Every single time we run our test suite, we get a new user in here, and it never apparently seems to go away. The answer is yes, definitely will be a problem. Here's why. Let's assume that maybe we write a test where we insert a record into our users collection, and then maybe we do a search over that collection and say, hey, does like someone with the name of Joe exist inside of here? Well, if we never do any cleanup to this collection of users, that test will always succeed no matter what, even if our implementation is actually broken. So we need to make sure that we somehow do a little bit of cleanup every single time that we run any test inside of our test suite. So here's going to be the goal. I want to make sure that every single time that Mocha starts up, we empty out our collection of users, then we'll run a test, empty out the collection of users, run a test, and repeat again and again. This will make sure that every single test that we have runs in relative isolation and that no data from any other test starts to mess around with another test. You might be thinking, well, what about the performance side of things? Don't worry, on the performance side of things, clearing out all the data inside of a collection will have a near negligible impact on how long it takes to run our test suite. So let's add in a little bit of code that makes sure that every single time before we are about to run a test, we will drop all the records inside of a collection of users. To do this, a little bit more easy than you might think. Okay, it won't be that bad. I'm inside of our project directory, inside the test folder, and I have open the test helper file. Inside of here, I'm going to add what is called a hook. A hook is a function that will be executed before any test gets executed inside of our test suite. So let's define the hook, and we'll talk about exactly what it's doing. Underneath the Mongoose connect statements, I'm going to say before each, and I'm going to pass it a fat arrow function. Before each is a hook. It will run before each test in our test suite. And so that's where the name before each comes from. And so really it's meeting the exact same kind of criteria we set up here. So inside this before each, we'll empty out our database. Then our test will run. The before each will run again. Test will run. Before each will run again, and so on. I think you get the idea. So now the challenge is, inside of here, we need to somehow find our collection of users and just drop all of the records inside of there. Mongoose gives us another handy way of working with the MongoDB collection behind the scenes. So remember, Mongoose is all about giving us a nice handler onto MongoDB. This is a little bit of trivia. The code that we're about to do here, you could certainly look through the API and figure out how to do it. I'm going to give us a very direct solution. So I'm going to say mongoose.connection.collections.users. This is a direct reference to our collection of users sitting inside of our database. Now once here, we can call the drop function on our collection of users. This means, hey, take all the records that are inside of here, all the records that are inside the users collection, and just delete all of them. Just toss them all out the window. This definitely fulfills our requirement of making sure that we clean up all of our records in between, or after, or excuse me, before each test that we run. And there's just one more little detail to be aware of in here. One last little detail. As we've seen, whenever Mongoose starts to reach out to Mongo, it takes a little bit of time, right? We saw that with this connect statement up here. We had said, yeah, whenever Mongoose tries to reach out to Mongo, we have to wait some period of time, and then, hey, that connection is successful or it fails. The same exact idea applies to every single operation that we take on a collection as well. So whether we are reading from a collection, writing, updating, dropping all the records inside of it, it is an operation that takes some amount of time to execute. And so we need to make sure that since this takes some amount of time to run right here, we pause our entire testing environment and say, hey, wait, Mocha, like we're doing this long running thing right here. Don't actually run any more tests until this operation is complete. So let's figure out how we're going to tell Mocha to take a little bit of a pause while we are attempting to drop all of our users inside of the users collection. Let's figure that out in the next section.